Steht nicht Mifza, and if you want to go for that, go for the first Verbringen, what the Rebbe said, Tovshin Yud Aleph, Yud Shvat. So, I don't know, you want to say that's a first Mifza Gesundheit? Gesundheit? I'm not arguing, but, okay. The Wort Mifza steht nicht dort. I also must tell you that there are some miracle makers here. I got a call last week that this Mesibe, whatever we call it, is going to be on Monday night. He said, okay, fine, I'll be here. Then on Friday, I think, I was called, maybe it can be Sunday. I said, fine. Baruch Hashem, the Mesibe is here. So it must be something that's working. L'maylo Medele Chateva. In way of saying something about the Meir Roness, what propelled Meir Roness? You say the Meir because he didn't care for Rebbe or Rav. That was not for him. There is a, since his Yortzeit, before Chavdalet Tevis, and I think some people mentioned it, that it was again of Simchas, when it was the Kvura here, it was already Chavdalet Tevis in Eretz Yisrael. Because the Meir had a special connection with the Alter Rebbe. And it's simple, the connection of Afotzas Hamayonis Chutzo. And he did Afotzas Hamayonis Chutzo in an unprecedented way. There's a Sikha in which the Rebbe tells a story that when the Alter Rebbe was in Tfisa, he was visited. He was visited by the Baal Shem Tov and by the Madritcha Maggid. And it was not Beruchnius, it was Begashmius. As a matter of fact, the Rebbe said that Midav Beidik Zayin, whether the place, whether the cell in which the Alter Rebbe was sitting was big enough for 3 people. So we're not talking about the Aruchnis Dikasel. Aruchnis Dikasel is big for 1 million people. We're talking about a Gashmias Dikasel. So they came big Gashmias. And not only that, the Alter Rebbe, although he saw the Baal Shem Tov when he was a child, but he didn't remember him, but he realized it was the Baal Shem Tov because he came in before the Masricha market. So they came in Begashmias. And he asked them, Vavos kumtas mir? I'm sitting here in jail, like Chachman al-Islam, a criminal, and what did I do? And they answered him, because you were Meitzis, Meifitz, Afotzas Hamayonis, Chutzo. Erelik mentioned it. You're Meifitz, Afotzas Hamayonis, and there's a Kitluk. And the Kitluk doesn't come from Misnagdim. The Kitluk that comes from Misnagdim has no bearing on the Bezdin Shel Milo. However, because the Kitluk came from a higher source, that you were Meifitz Afotzas Hamayonis in an unprecedented way, this is why it was able to happen that Lamato, they should have some kind of shlita, at least temporarily. And the Alter Rebbe asked them, Favos kumtas mir? And they answered, because you are Meifitz Mayonis Achsidus Chutzo. So the Alter Rebbe asked, when I go out, should I stop? And they said no. Once you started, you should continue, and even in a greater fashion. That's the story the Rebbe told. And then the Rebbe says, let's analyze the story. What's the question and what's the answer? The question was, why am I in jail? The answer is because you did more Afotzas Hamayonis, the Bezdin Shel Milo is not happy. So if the Bezdin Shel Milo is not happy, so how can you continue later? And what is the answer? The Rebbe said, moreover, what happened between the first day when the Alter Rebbe was incarcerated and the 53rd day? Nothing. Everything is the same. Nothing changed. So what changed? That first there was a Kitluk, and then the Kitluk was removed. The Rebbe says, Ein Wort. The Kitluk was removed for one thing, for the Mesilas Nefesh of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe showed that he is ready to go for the Shita of the Baal Shem Tov with Mesilas Nefesh Bepeil, and sit in jail one day, and the second day, and the third day. He's willing to go Mesilas Nefesh Bepeil. And what broke through after 53 days, a day for every day in Tanya, was the Mesilas Nefesh of the Alter Rebbe. In one word, Rabbi say, what broke through for Meir Roness, and I'm saying Meir Roness deliberately, Meir Roness was a Jew of Mesilas Nefesh. His whole being was Mesilas Nefesh. And everything he did, I remember when he juggled. His day was that he needed a car, and he needed a driver, and he needed gas, and he needed chachlis, and he needed mincha, and ma'iliv, and mikveh, and it's everything together. And where is he going to find it? And at the end, he davened chachlis, and he davened mincha, and he davened ma'iliv, and he went to the mikveh, and he got a driver, and he got money for gas, and he got directions. Everything went. It was Meir's Mesilas Nefesh. And his whole work with Mesilas Nefesh. There's some people who said to him, they don't want us, this one don't want us, this one you're going to go to a place, you're going to throw us out. Meir didn't make any cheshbenis. His life was a life of Mesilas Nefesh. And this is why he was zeiche to Afotzas HaMayones in an unprecedented way. I'm not going to tell you why he was zeiche before Chavdalet Teves. Because there's a greater schus of passing away before Chavdalet Teves, living before Chavdalet Teves, and continuing. So this is an historis Lashem Elokeinu. But Meir lived a life like the Alter Rebbe did, a life of Mesilas Nefesh. In Heintige Parsha, and it's in today's Chitas, there's a posuk where one would think for a moment, why is the Torah telling us that? V'lishomu el Moshe miketze ruach u'meyavedo kosher. They didn't hear. This is not complimentary. Moshe Rabbeinu comes and he tells them good news, and the Torah says they didn't even hear what he said. So first of all, it's not complimentary. It's not bishvochom shel Yisrael. And second of all, there's a question here. V'lishomu el Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling him good news. Kinderach, you're going out of Golus. And the pshatim in that, because Rashi says if a person works so hard, they didn't even have a chance to listen to him. The Chassidische Deutsch. Miketze Ruach means that the Ruchnius was short. We were short on the Ruchnius. On Gashmius is something else. There was a shortage of Ruach, of Ruchnius. And therefore, because of that, he didn't hear. There are some Jews in this world, shortness on that do not suffer from shortness on the Ruchnius. It says in Chassidus that by some people, we all have on the Shomeh Chelek Elokam Imal Mamish. By some people it shines through, and by some people the goof is mastir. The goof is shields and doesn't let the light of the neshama break through. And then you see it in life. You see, some Jews are conducting themselves in a spiritual way. And some Jews never are avodim knainim to the Gashmias. Meir was a Jew that the Gashmias of the world did not affect him. The neshama shined through the Gashmias. And he never suffered of Ketzel Ruach. Maybe he suffered of Ketzel, in the name of Gashmiim. But Ketzel Ruach he never suffered. Because Meir was a spiritual Jew. Inyonim Gashmiim never troubled him. Here we can say it. He worked for Tzirei Agudas Chabad. One of the things how he supported his activities, he collected money. He collected dollars. He collected dollars by Achasen, by Abris, Mizalgin of Simches. Now, one would argue that this is not a very respectable thing to do. The Israelis like to say, Zelo mechubad. Going around asking everybody for dollars and so on. You think Meir didn't understand it? What you and I understand, that it's not mechubad, you understand it too. The only thing is us it troubles. Meir didn't trouble. Meir knew he was doing the right thing. Number one, he was collecting money. One of the miftzoyim, and this is really a miftzah, is miftzah tzedakah, which means getting Jews to give tzedakah. So if for nothing else, and by the way, to put together a budget, not from $5,000 bills, from $1 bills like Meir did, you need a lot of $1 bills, which means you got a lot of Jews to do miftzah tzedakah. And therefore, if somebody thinks that it's not mechubad, that's their problem. But Meir, there was not a cheshbon at all. And not only that, and with that money, he does Afotzas HaMayones. So he gained from all sides. He did Mifzoim once, and then he did Mifzoim again. And all the cheshbenes that we make, the white-collar cheshbenes, as a spasnit, Meir didn't live in that kind of world. He didn't suffer Miketze Ruach. Ruchnis Baruch Hashem, the neshama shined through. And therefore, this was the life of the Meir Roness. And this is why he was successful. To tell this story, and it's not a new story, Somebody once came into the house of the Mazlicha Magid, and he came in and looked around, and he saw there were no tables and no chairs. The table was like a piece of wood and two boxes or something, and the chairs was a part of a tree, and he looks around and he says, "Azay lepment, this is how a person lives." And the man says, "I think that's the Loshen. Ich weiß nicht, ich bin nicht in Gwir, aber bei mir in Stub, my house, there's a chair and there's a table and so on." And the Mazlicha Magid answered him, "In Stub is anders. In house, this is not our house, this is we're all in transit." The Meir Roness, those who know, lived that way, and he wasn't the Mazlicha Magid. We tell a story how the Mazlicha Magid was. So somebody's going to say, "So what do you want from me? I'm not the Mazlicha Magid." But here's a Jew who lived with us and acted like the Mazlicha Magid, that Gashmias did not make any difference to him. But the Neshama shined through, and everything else did not make any difference whatsoever. And that's the message. Talking about the Lishomu El Moshe, the Ketzer Ruach Umei Aveda Kosher. One of the reasons, and maybe many reasons why the Torah writes that pasuk, is because there are many people who have a question. We are today in the same matzav that our forefathers were in Mitzrayim. We were in Golus, Elvas Ha'oretz. And then Moshe Rabbeinu tells us, "Higias man geulaschem, v'itzeisi v'itzalti," all the l'shenis of Geula that are in today's chitas. We are experiencing the same thing. The Rebbe told us that we're going out of Golus, Higias man geulaschem. Did the whole world accept it? Did the whole world say, "Hey, I can't do anything else, I have to prepare for Mashiach"? Some did, and some should have. Therefore, there could be a Jew from Chachmei Lizhanke who's going to say, "Listen, if not the whole world accepts it, so Geves, maybe what?" The Pasuk tells us, "V'lishomu el Moshe." You should know that it already happened in history. Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jews that they're going out of Mitzrayim. Arguably, they should have been dancing in the aisles of Pisem and Ramses, and dancing with Moshe Rabbeinu. Baruch Hashem, Higias man geulaseinu. We're going out of Golus. Zog the Pasuk, "V'lishomu el Moshe." So therefore, if you see it today, there's nothing new. However, we know one thing, that the fact that they didn't hear what Moshe Rabbeinu said had no bearing on the Metzias that they went out of Golus. And there's the same thing with us. Although there are some V'lishomu el Moshe for the first time, nevertheless, it doesn't change the prophecy. And the Higias man geulaschem is a fact. Und Emir Hashem, the Rebbe wird uns erlösen von Golus taken from Yad Mamish, and then everybody will agree. And if it'll take some people a little longer, state in the Chumash that can happen. The message that the Meir Roness is leaving for us is that we can live in this world. Somebody once said, a philosopher, who has a greater influence on a person, the Rebbe or the kid that's in your class? No, there's a big difference between the Rebbe and the kid. Nevertheless, to the Rebbe, not everybody can say he can compare to himself to the Rebbe. And the Yetzer Hara is the first one who says, "What are you comparing yourself to the Rebbe? You're not a Rebbe. What's the matter with you?" But here there's a child, and here there's a Jew in our community that lives like the Mazlicha Magid, that acts, and it doesn't even tell the story in the Haim. He doesn't say anything. He lives that way. And that's the message that he's leaving to us and to every single one of us. That the Ruchnius, as much as we can say that, we should not pay any attention. We should pay the attention only to the Ruchnius and the Gashmias, even if it's sometimes for a moment not the way we want. The Meir Roness says that's not what the important thing in life is. And he was zeicha, Baruch Hashem, he was zeicha in an unprecedented way. Talking about Afotzes Hamayones Chutza, there's probably no one that did Afotzes Hamayones like the Meir Roness did. And today, Baruch Hashem, the Peiris, all from the Mesiras Nefesh of one Jew. And there's Bashgocha Protis that his Yortzeit is before Chavdalet Tevis. So by Chavdalet Tevis, he was already sitting with the Alter Rebbe, and he was hearing Chassidus from the Alter Rebbe. And as the Rebbe says, the Alter Rebbe came to this world, Shnei Eid, was for one reason, to prepare the world for the coming of Mashiach. And you see from the Maimed, from Bosir Ligandi, Tovshin Yud Aleph, But the Rebbe says, he brings the Medrash, the Medrash of Shiva Tzadikim that brought the Shechina, Avram Avinu, until Moshe Rabbeinu was given the Shvi, V'chol HaShvim Chavivin, and so on. We all know that. And it's the same thing that Shiva Tzadikim are going to bring down Moshiach in this world. And the Alter Rebbe is the first one, and the Rebbe is the seventh one, and the Rebbe will bring down the Gulu Hamitis V'Ashlemo, Gesundheit und Fröhlichkeit, Teke von Meyad Mamish. It's taking Rabbi a little too long. Nevertheless, every moment means that we are closer to the Gulu Hamitis V'Ashlemo. We work for Tzidei Agudas Chabad. Reb David always used to say, I never heard it from anyone else, but Reb David hat allemaal sagen, der Rebbe soll sich anton in a Guf Gashmi und soll durchstimmen von Golus, alle men zusammen, Teke von Miyad Mamish.
Thank you. Next we are going to hear from one of the payers of Reb Meir, when he was a young man here in the community, was one of the students in Yeshiva University when Reb Meir sent his soldiers there, and therefore we're asking him to come in to share his thoughts with us. Yisuk Bagsho.
Don't get scared, this is not another speech. This is a commercial. Rebbe once said by a Fabrengen, after somebody said that they were giving out Zetlach by Fabrengen, I think it was written up someplace, and he was sure. He says because he comes to every place, the rabbi talks and talks and talks, but they make doch Geld, and then they're going to give out Zetlach, and then he sees all of a sudden they're giving out Zetlach in 770. At Yutis Kislev, he said, that's a big gemeint. Now they're making the appeal. Then he takes that settle. He figured how much does he have to give. But on the settle, it says whether he's taking Broches or Shabbos or Elvin or Psochim. It was a different kind of appeal. We are making an appeal tonight. Because of Chavdal Tevis, we want to be Messiah. We want to be Mechalik. Chavdal Tevis Chavdal Tevis Avol Aleinu Leteva in Yerushalayim Yerakedesh. We're going to be Mechalik the Malta Dem Shulchan Aruch. It's going to be also online, and their Bochim was sitting here. So before you leave, a simon or two is not much, and you have a whole year to learn it. And you're going to be part of the Chalukah of the Malta Dem Shulchan Aruch, which the Rebbe spoke about. So if you don't, before you leave, make sure, and not only that, you're going to get the kuntres in your hand, the kuntres that has the pages of what you're going to learn. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I knew Meir Roness since I was around 15 years old, and I want to tell you a little about my experiences with him. I see that the pushkas, I should have brought one over here, but everyone can see them. The pushkas say Karen Meir, Shiurei Chasidus. I was involved with two of those shiurim of Chasidus that Meir used to run. The first one, a top secret shiur that we had in a Litvish yeshiva, and the second one, a pretty open, available to all shiur that we had at Yeshiva University. I don't really remember how I first met Meir. But at the time, I was a Lubavitcher Bacher, learning in a Litvish yeshiva. I went to high school in the yeshiva in Adelphia, New Jersey, which is right outside of Lakewood and is very heavily, subscribes to the Lakewood philosophy. And in those days, some years ago, there was, unfortunately, some degree of animosity between Lakewood and Lubavitch. Anyway, somehow or other, Meir found me, and he asked me if I would coordinate a Tanya Shir in the Lakewood Yeshiva of Adelphia, the Lakewood-oriented Yeshiva of Adelphia. So I said, yes. So we used to have, we couldn't put up signs, we couldn't say, come to the Tanya Shir, because in those days, in the Lakewood Yeshiva, they did not approve of Tanya Shiurim, and it would have been a lot of trouble. So what we did was we used to have the shear down the road. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Adelphia, New Jersey, but it's a very rural area. In those days, I haven't been there in quite a while now, but in those days there were farms in the back of the yeshiva. The first year I was there was a farm with cows and things like that, and then they converted it to crops. They grew corn and things. So, like a mile or two down the road, there was a shopping center with an A&P. And the Bachram used to go there Friday afternoon to shop for Shabbos, or they would go into Lakewood to go to the mikveh or whatever. So we used to go down the road, and we would say that we were going to the A&P. But across from the A&P, or before you got to the A&P, there was a cornfield. So we would meet the car. Meir would send a car, like Rabbi Butman mentioned. Meir was koching in these ideas to send car who has a car, who can drive, you know, where can I get one? And he used to send a car. Rabbi Moshe Wahlberg used to come and give the shiur. Brilliant Talmud Chacham. Now he's a Rosh Yeshiva. Then he was learning in 770, and he would be driven out to Adelphia by Betzalel Leshes, who still lives here in the community. And Betzalel is here. Okay, what? For all those Tanya shiurim. Anyway, the point is that we used to meet them, right? Remember this? We used to meet them in the cornfield down the road. And every week we used to have a new time and a new place. You know, you have to mix it up because we were spies, and it was very exciting, especially for a 15-year-old kid. I had a great time. But the thing is, like I said, the other Bachrim in the yeshiva, if they found out, you know, obviously some of the Bachrim, you know, who's for us and who's against us. We had to spread the word among those we figured we were interested, but keep it secret from those who were going to cause trouble. So what we did was, there was a guy in the yeshiva who came from Brazil. And in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. So here, of course, in Crown Heights, especially in those days, there were people from all over the world. And Meir found a Portuguese guy, not a Portuguese, a Brazilian guy. Actually, I don't know, maybe he came from Portugal, but wherever he came from, the guy spoke Portuguese. So what we used to do is, there were no cell phones in those days. There was a payphone in the hallway of the yeshiva. So the guy who spoke Portuguese would call up, and he would ask for this certain bacher who spoke Portuguese. And he would say it's his cousin or something like that. And the guy would come, and he would come to the phone, and they would speak in Portuguese. Nobody would understand what they were saying. And if anybody asked him, who was that? He would say, oh, it's my cousin. Yeah, how was grandma? How was your family? And stuff like that. But really, he was saying the shiur this week will be held, you know, in the third row of corn down from the left or whatever. Anyway, so we used to do that, and we would trek it down the road. It wasn't a big shiur. Maybe there would be me and 2 other guys, 3 other guys, whatever it is. But we went down the road, and we found the car with Rabbis Wahlberg and Leshes in it, and we learned Tanya. Anyway, that was in Adelphia, Meir's Tanya shiur. We kept that up for a number of years. Now, between that shiur and the next shiur that I was involved in with Meir, he had a very important impact on my life. You can imagine that, you know, here I was a Lubavitcher Bacher learning in a Lakewood yeshiva. It was uncomfortable in some respect. I mean, I have to tell you, I loved Adelphia. I got a lot out of the yeshiva. I'm very grateful to them. But some of the Bacher and the Hanhala actually liked me. Baruch Hashem, you know, as long as, okay, you come to Minyan, you learn well, you want to go to Tanya shiur, you know, they sort of looked the other way. At least, Baruch Hashem, that was my experience. They sort of let me get away with it because they liked me. But the Bachrim were not necessarily so liberal. One guy actually even hit me because I was trying to get somebody to learn Tanya. The guy is arguing with me. Finally, he socks me in the face or whatever he did. He pushed me, I don't know. So I wanted, when I got out of Adelphia, I wanted to come learn in Lubavitch. I wanted to go to Morristown, which was where you went after high school in those days. You know, nowadays, if yeshivas, you can choose, you can have your choice. But in those days, it was Morristown. Anyway, my father didn't want me to go there, though. So he said, I'm not paying for you to go to Morristown. Anyway, I had been dealing with Meir because of the Tanya shiurim, and we were talking, and I told him, about my problem. You know, here I'm graduating and I want to go to Morristown, but I can't pay. My father doesn't want me to go there. So Meir went to Rabbi Herson and he said, you know, there's this bacher and he's been in Adelphia and he wants to come to Lubavitch. He's a Lubavitcher bacher, and he helped me with the Tanya Shir, I guess, whatever he told him. Anyway, Rabbi Herson said, no problem, send him, you know. So Meir says to me, you can go, there's a bed for you, everything's arranged, you can go to Morristown. So I said to my father and my parents, God bless them, you know, they, Baruch Hashem, sent me to yeshiva all along, so I'm very grateful to them, but we had this little difference of opinion about where I was going to go next. So I said, I'm going to Morristown. He said, no, you're not. Well, yes, I am. No, you're not. And I was only 17 at that time, and they figured, you know, what can I do? I'm powerless, right? I have no money. I have no ability to go out and enroll myself somewhere. But little did they know that Meir Roness was working for me behind the scenes, working on my behalf. So the time came to go to Morristown. Meanwhile, that week, I'm packing my bags, I'm getting all ready. My father's saying, what are you doing? I say, yeah, I'm going to Morristown. I say, no, you're not. All right. So the day came, and I packed up my bags, and I said to my father, you know, I'd like to ask you a favor. If you would like, I'd appreciate it if you could drive me to Morristown. Otherwise, I have to go shut up to the train station. I got my suitcase, all this stuff. He couldn't believe it. But he said, all right, look. So he drove me there. And I learned in Morristown. And it was thanks to Meir. Of course, Rabbi Herson is a smart man. After a month or two, he calls up my father. He says, you know, your son is here in our yeshiva. He's learning. He's eating our food. He's sleeping in our bed. You know, don't you think it's nice if you pay? My father said, oh, certainly, you know. So, Baruch Hashem, my father paid the tuition anyway, but it's because of Meir that I got the chance to learn in Lubavitcher Yeshiva. And then I went to YU, and again, with the Tanya Shurim. There were Tanya Shurim in YU for quite some time. Before I was there was also a Tanya Shur. And after I left, there was a Tanya Shur too. But when I was there with a few other guys. Shmuel Weintraub was there, Tzvi Dinnerman, some other people that are in the community. And we ran what we called the Chabad Club of YU. And in those days, we believed in Ufaratzta. We took over the place. Before, it was the Chabad Club of YU, which meant Yeshiva College, the men's school. But they have a women's school, Stern College for women, and that's where Rabbi Metzger taught, teaches. You know, is he still there? But whatever it is, the point is that we had Einstein Medical School and the Furkhoff Graduate School of whatever they teach, I think, who knows, psychology or something like that. Anyway, there was a lot of schools, so we tried to have a presence in all of these places. That's why we called it the Chabad Club of Yeshiva University, to include all those places. And we ran the weekly Tanya Shir there. Meir arranged that Rabbi Chaim Meir Buket, Olav Shalom, was going to come up and give the Tanya Shir. But the Hashgacha Pratis, the first week, Rabbi Buket got sick. He had a cold or whatever it is. He wasn't able to make it. So Meir is scrambling. Okay, as always, you know, Meir was a Baal Mesiras Nefesh, and nothing fazed him. You know, the last minute, yeah, the car broke down, find another car. The Bacher can't make it, find another Bacher. Magashir is sick, find another Magashir. So he scrambled around, where can I find somebody to replace Rabbi Buket? And he found Rabbi Shvei. Rabbi Shvei, who is now one of the Rabbanim in our community. So he agreed to come up. Then he was a Rebbe in the Lubavitch Yeshiva. And he came up and he gave the Tanya Shir. So that first week, Rabbi Shvei gave the Shir, and after he finished, the Bachram said to me, you know, I know you put up signs and you said Rabbi Buket is coming. That was the Mechaya about YU, by the way. Now YU, for better or for worse, anything goes. You want to have a Tanya Shir? Great. You put up signs. The yeshiva, they even paid for it. You know, we were the Chabad Club of YU. It was an official student organization. So they paid. They paid for the signs. They paid for whatever, you know, some refreshments. They gave us a room to hold it in. It was great. So we put up signs. Rabbi Buket is coming. And the Bachrim liked Rabbi Shvei. And they said to me, you know, what about this rabbi? We want this rabbi to stay. So I asked Rabbi Shvei afterward, you know, I said Bachrim really enjoyed the shir. And I asked him if he could come. And in those days, Rabbi Shvei had a lot less practice in English than he has acquired over the intervening years. And he said in a heavier accent than he speaks in now, he says, "Oy vey, I hardly speak English." He said, "You know, you speak English just fine." You know, they liked it. And since then, Rabbi Shvei came. I don't remember if he came for 2 years or more than 2 years, whatever it is. He used to come every week and give the shir for the Bachrim at, the Tanya shir for the Bachrim at YU. And they still have a Tanya shir at YU. For a while, they had a program where Bachrim would go up and they would learn B'chavrusa with students in the yeshiva there, and now I understand there's also a formal weekly shir. They have Chavrusa now too. I mean, I've lost touch with this, but I look back on it with, you know, fondness. Anyway, in connection with that, the effects of all these activities on campus are really great, because just the fact that we were, you know, YU students are very open, very sincere, very, really wonderful, wonderful boys. And they are susceptible to whatever influence you put before them. You parade around with a hat and a beard and tzitzis hanging out and things like that, and they say, hey, maybe I too should be like that. Not everybody. But one guy actually said to me, you know, I want to tell you that just by your being here, you had more influence on me than anybody else in my life. Then he stops for a minute and he says, well, except my kala. He was engaged at the time. Then he stops again and he says, no, even my kala. In fact, that person, when it came time for the weekly Tanya shir, he, you know, we used to, Shmuel Weintraub and I used to run around the dormitories trying to drum up business for the weekly Tanya shir. Meir was here in Crown Heights sending people, and we were up there trying to get the attendees. So we ran around the dormitories, and I saw this particular guy who told me that. And I said to him, the Tanya shir is being held, are you going to come tonight? He says to me, no, I'm going on a date tonight. So I said, you know, you know, you have to know your customers. This guy is a sincere person. Maybe he's even here, I don't know. Because he ended up in Lubavitch because of those Tanya Shirim and all these other things. He says to me, I'm going on a date tonight. So I said to him, you know, Tanya Shir is happening tonight. We don't really go on dates unless, you know, we're sincere and you're looking to evaluate the woman as a potential marriage partner. So he says to me, you're right. I said, so you're coming to the shir? He says, no, I will evaluate her as a potential marriage partner. And he taka married her, and they, you know, and I know they're still married, they have plenty of kids. It's a very nice family, and they live here in Crown Heights. And finally, one other effect that we had on all those, while all that stuff was going on up at YU is, I came to the, you know, some of you may be, like Rabbi Costel said, I live here in the community, maybe some of you have seen my face before, maybe some of you have even, you know, been aware that I was involved in adapting Torah and the Likutei Torah into English, and I brought a couple of the books which came out of all that with me. And the reason I'm telling you this is not just to promote shamelessly my books, but also to tell you that this all originated in those days at Yeshiva University. Because what happened is, I noticed that students, university students, will read anything as long as it is taped to the wall near the elevator in the dormitory. It doesn't matter what it says. Join the revolution, commit this shtus or that shtus, doesn't matter. If it's taped to the wall by the elevator, students will read it. And I figured, you know, what's really missing from YU? The students don't learn enough Chassidus. But you walk around to people, I mean, we had enough trouble getting them to come to the Tanya Shir. To get them to learn even more Chassidus was difficult. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do this intravenously. I called it intravenous Chassidus, I figured to myself. I didn't tell them that. I said, I'm going to take a mimer of Chassidus, I'll translate it into English, and I'll put it also on the wall near the elevator in the dormitory. So it says, join the revolution, here's a mimer, you know, whatever else. And they'll read it all. So we did that, and the first year that I tried it, it went well. I learned a lot of Chassidus that way. But the students didn't really understand it because I tried to condense the whole mimer into one sheet of paper, and I used the smallest type that I could have. I had a typewriter in those days, you know, those before word processors, and I had a typewriter which had a choice of 10-point or 12-point type. So I used 10-point type, and I used legal size 14-inch paper, and I tried to make the single spacing. I crammed whatever I could into it, and the students found it too difficult to, you know, read all that stuff. So the second year I tried what I called the Disney version. I used 12-point type, and I skipped a line, you know, I skipped the space between lines, and I, you know, tried to condense it as much as possible and it went over much better, except that I left out most of the mimer. So that didn't work out too well either. And so we then made pamphlets. I just figured, okay, in order to do justice to this, we'll just write and write and write till I do the job. And the university paid for all this. They gave me in those days we printed it all on a mimeograph machine. And Meir used to send the people up to give the Tanya Shir. And on the way back, like I said, we tried to take over the whole place. So we sent these Maimarim to the Stern College. On the way back, the drivers would take, and Rabbi Shvei consented to this. You know, he presumably had what to do in his house, and he had a family. But nevertheless, they detoured to the women's college on the way back from the Tanya Shir, and they distributed those Maimarim there also. And eventually it ended up as the books, you know, Words of the Living God with Maimarim adapted from Torah and Likutei Torah in English. So we all owe a great debt of gratitude to Meir. I certainly do on a personal level, and I think everybody does on a Klal Yisrael level for all that he did for Klal Yisrael generally with all the shiurim that he spread and all the effects that he had on people, whether somebody who said, yeah, I'm going to the Tanya Shir and I'm getting married and I'm learning Chassidus, whatever he did. And on a personal level, like how he helped me get into Morristown, I just never knew Meir to be anything but cheerful and optimistic, and he did all of this great stuff. May we all see him again immediately with Mashiach now.